Are you stuck and you actually want to increase your borrowing capacity so that you can scale up to have a sizable property portfolio? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you my couple of tips that have helped me personally go and scale up my property portfolio, and I think you could use the same for yourself. If you're interested, keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi Sharma and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you are new here, smash that subscribe button because we talk about real estate, cryptocurrency, and financial freedom. Now, drop a like for the video so that we can share this video out to more people that really need it. In this video, I want to focus on how you can increase your borrowing capacity so you can keep scaling up your property portfolio, which in turn will lead to financial freedom because you earn the income, you've got the capital growth, and it's a beautiful place to be. Now watch till the end because I'm going to share with you exactly how I'm using a combination of these things to actually go and just scale up to a whole nother level with my property portfolio, and is what I'm now getting clients to do. They're learning in the Patreon community with mastermind access. We are talking about collectibles, cryptocurrency, and real estate, and how you can use all of them to really propel yourself. Now let's jump into the first tip. Increase your income. Now this seems fairly obvious because you're like, hey, if I just want to increase my borrowing capacity, let me just go get more income, obviously. But what I'm talking about specifically here is instead of focusing an extra 10 to 15 hours a week on your day job, maybe it's worthwhile actually spending the 10 to 15 hours doing personality quizzes, figuring out what you like and don't like, and really becoming self-aware. Now, this could be through watching YouTube videos. It could be through watching other people that are doing this, with side hustles, but also listening to podcasts while going for walks. I think these things are super underrated because we think just initially by going and spending time watching a YouTube video like this, or going and listening to a podcast where there's two people talking or one really successful person talking about their experiences, is like a return on investment of zero because you're like,
this isn't getting me to research for job hustles and side hustles and how I can do it.
But what we don't know is that when you put in that time, your mind starts wavering through and starts doing its thing. And that's where it gets funky. That's where the ideas start, coming out to you, and you start navigating and getting attracted to those ideas to really come and test them. So I would say, instead of focusing on your 9 to 5, yes, you've got to focus on that. And the truth is, spending an extra 10 hours a week at work may just get you another promotion. But when you really look at it, if you can find something that you're really interested in that really brings you happiness outside of your day job, one, it becomes a hobby. Two, to get from $0 to $10,000 is actually not that hard when you compare that to the extra responsibilities and extra hours you have to put in to a job you may not already like. So this is where I'm saying is this channel is not just about, hey, just buy more properties and invest in this, invest in that, because why not? Let's be rich. It's not about that. What I really advocate for here, and I do this especially on the long form podcast videos that I put out. You can check out the videos on the channel or listen to the podcast on your walk. But essentially what I focus on is happiness and balance. You can go out there and make $1 million and just be really miserable. Or you can make 60 to 100K. If you're making that passively and now you can do things that you really enjoy, maybe working 2 to 3 days a week, maybe spending time with the family and friends, then that's amazing. That's pure happiness. And Gary Vee talks about this all the time. The North Star should always be happiness. It doesn't matter if you can go, oh, well, if I just put in an extra couple of hours, I may be able to get a status or, update my LinkedIn profile. But is that really going to bring you happiness? So I would say my first thing is increase your income, but not just by going in and saying, I'm going to put in extra time in my job, and actually spend that time figuring out what you like, what your passions are, and start that side hustle. Tip number 2, replace your principal place of residence and RENTVEST. A lot of people just got triggered. Maybe they hit the dislike button, but you know what? The reality is the reality. Yes, interest rates are so low, and that means maybe the place that I'm purchasing, the repayments are actually lower than the rent I have. Whoa. Yeah, look, I get it. I've done the maths as well. But when you put both on an Excel sheet, you figure out how the borrowing calculators actually work, you'll realize that it's not so much just your, income versus expenses. It actually comes down to the debt that you have as well. Because what we're not factoring in is that if you rent, you use that money to attach debt to productive assets. And that income allows you to actually reduce your ongoing expenses like rent. So let's say, for instance, you have a property that you invest in instead of buying your own home. If you go and invest that money and you say happen to have a couple of $100 a week of positive cash flow, that will then actually reduce the amount that you're spending on your rent. Not only that, but you also get benefits like tax benefits, and the bank looks at it differently when it's an investment loan versus a principal place of residence loan. Now, of course, none of the stuff I'm talking about in this video or on this channel is financial advice. I'm just some guy on YouTube. So definitely go and do your own research, but use these videos as a prompt to start getting educated and start looking in different directions, because whoever we've been listening to are fake teachers. They really haven't taught us how to do our taxes and how to build financial freedom, and that's what we're essentially here on YouTube doing. Now, for those who know me and have been following the channel, I do RENTVEST as well. I rent an apartment in Sydney, and at the end of the day, I still have people go,
"Oh, you live in that suburb? Why would you live in an apartment? Like, I totally live in a house."
And at the end of the day, I don't really care about what other people think. It's happiness. And I say this time and time again, it's balance and happiness. If I can go out, RENTVEST, and figure out I want to live in different places, figure out what I really like about certain areas, then that means in the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going to have a better chance of picking a place for my principal place of residence that I'll get to eventually buy, debt free, because I went and invested into productive assets instead of going and blowing money so that I could put up a sold sign on Instagram. I'm not interested in that. It doesn't really do anything for me. And at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do and that brings you happiness, because there's certainty obviously around having a principal place of residence versus renting, then go for it. Like, if that's what makes you happy. But just realize that if we're trying to increase our borrowing capacity, really scale up our property portfolio, these are the sort of things that are going to affect you in a negative light. My third tip is buy outright. Now, obviously, we would all love to buy assets outright because then we have no debt attached to it. But what I'm talking to is pretty much the more sophisticated investors, or investors that have a large sum of money sitting there. Now, hear me out. Yes, you could go out and with real estate, the whole element of buying and getting leverage to buy something is amazing. But sometimes you need to take a step back to go 2 steps forward. What I mean by that is, if you can't get borrowing, they are just basically saying, well, the bank is, that your income versus your expenses means we can't get you a loan. But if we can change that by either using our money to pay down our debt, or we could actually use that money to go and purchase a property outright. If we go out and purchase a property outright, now there's no debt attached to it and there's extra income coming through. Now, you'd be surprised when you realize just an extra $100 a week, what that could actually do to your borrowing capacity. It could increase your borrowing capacity by $100,000 or $200,000, and that's going to make a significant difference. So imagine doing that across a property that possibly gives you about $250, $300 or $350 a week of rent. After minusing all your expenses, you're probably left in your pocket with like $250 or $300 anyway. So considering that is not a bad ploy. Instead of just going,
hey, you know what, I'm out, I can't borrow any more money, probably in the next couple of years I can't do anything.
Well, doesn't really work like that. You can actually have some options, and one of those things is go out there, purchase the property outright. And of course, I know, properties don't grow on trees and they're not like $100,000 or $50,000 lying around. They are expensive. But we're just looking at all of our options as to what we can do to really scale up the portfolio. Number 4 is renovate. So if you have a situation where you may have an investment property already, but because you aren't able to go out to the bank and borrow again to purchase your next investment, it might be worthwhile to use the extra $30,000 or $40,000 lying around to actually go in and renovate that property. Now, this is going to give you a couple of advantages. One, it increases your equity position because the property is now probably going to be valued for a lot higher. Obviously, you need to do your research. It's not just, hey, I'm going to pick any property, go and renovate, put a new bathroom, new kitchen, and it's great. It doesn't work like that. We need to do some research. We need to look at comparables as to what those properties that are renovated, how much do they sell for, and how much is the property you just bought? How much is that worth? And if we can go in and put in, say, $20,000 of renovations, but in fact, now the value is going to come in closer to these comparables, which might be, say, $50,000 or $60,000 higher, now we're getting a really good equity position. So if we do that, one, it increases our equity position, but does it really affect our borrowing capacity? Well, no, it doesn't, unless we can actually increase our rents. And with the banks and how their borrowing capacities, service calculators work, they take a maximum of 6% rental yield. So let's say, for instance, you're in 2 situations. One, you've got a property that actually gives you a rental yield based on your value that the bank values at, say, 7% rental yield. Well, they'll only take 6% because that's what they've capped it at. But if you go in and you actually renovate and you increase the equity position, the value of the house now sits higher, which means your rental yield, according to the bank, has decreased. And when that decreases, that means they're going to take in the entire 6%, because maybe it falls from 7% to say 6% on the new value amount. They may go, hey, you know what? We can now calculate this income, and that income allows you to go and purchase your next property. So that's number one situation. Number two situation is, of course, when you've gone and renovated that property, again, if you've done your research properly, you might be able to increase your rents. If you increase your rents, and let's say it's under 6%, now it's hitting the 6%, or it's like 5.5%, well, now you've increased how much income you have, and that allows you, again, to scale up your property portfolio. Now, before I jump into my number 5 sort of tip into how you can scale up your property portfolio, smash that like button, because we want these videos to be shared to more people, because we need to grow a community of people that are financially accountable, independent, and are well educated in the space. Because, hey, it does affect you, because our taxes won't be going up when other people actually taking financial education seriously. They're not going to clog up the system and just sit there on the pension and things like that. So smash that like button and let's continue. Now, number 5 is buy with someone. Now, obviously there's some risks with this. If you buy with someone and then, you guys aren't friends anymore, then of course you're going to have to figure out how do you sell it and go all through that headache. But if you can go and borrow and purchase with someone, whether that's your parents, whether that's your siblings, your partner, your wife, whatever it is, if you can go out and do that, you actually allow yourself to take in 2 incomes versus just 1. Now, it depends on your situation, of course, but if you have a situation where if you need an extra 100K or 200K of borrowing, if you go and happen to attach another income, naturally your borrowing capacity should increase. So of course, go and have a chat with a broker and really figure out what options you have. That sort of leads me into my number 6 tip, which is go and find yourself a broker. If you have multiple properties, this is where it becomes really effective, because you have debt already. If you can now have that debt repackaged and go to another bank and it's refinanced at lower rates, you've now decreased your expenses. But not only that, sometimes the bank even offer you like cash bonuses or like rebates for you just coming across. If that allows you to reduce your debt, hey, well, you're all just working your way towards scaling up your property portfolio. Number 7, buy cash flow positive properties. Yes, I have heard it time and time again. Cash flow properties don't actually grow. They're out in regional towns, rural towns. They have no capital growth. Just go and watch like the 100 other videos I have on the channel. I can't be bothered explaining why that's so far from the truth. If you purchase well and you have a good amount of cash flow coming in, it allows you to stay in the game. The reason I say that is when you go out, let's say we purchase in Sydney or Melbourne, and you've got rents of like rental yields of 2% or 3%, you're negatively geared. Now, what that means is your negative cash flow is actually affecting your borrowing capacity. The banks will basically go, well, you're already spending money on this, this, and this. You now have debt, or productive debt across an asset, but the asset's not really an asset because it takes money from your pocket. Yes, it might be increasing capital growth and equity, but you can't access that without cash flow. This is something I talk about on the strategy sessions, where the 2 most important pillars of a property portfolio is cash flow, equity, and cash, and how this relationship really allows you to scale up. There's no way I could have done this without increasing my income, doing all of these things, and really employing what I like to call, or what people say is called the velocity of money. Essentially, we want money to keep moving, right? Now, when you go out and you buy, say, I don't know, shares, but they don't provide you a cash flow, you're really relying on the capital growth and appreciation of that share. Now, same thing is with, like, say, real estate. If you have a real estate property and you actually go out there and don't have it rented out, you're not really using that money. Yes, you've used the money by earning it and then you're putting it into real estate, but what I'm talking about is next level, right? I'm talking about advanced. To really scale up your property portfolio, the moment you've all been waiting for, is combination of all of these things. And that's exactly what I've done. If you go out there and you actually use all of these tactics together, you're really going to create a machine. And what I like to refer in my strategy sessions as the machine. Anyone that's seen a strategy session, that's like the inside joke. But essentially, we're going and creating this machine to then allow us to keep building on top of that. It's so essential, so important that over the next couple of years, you need to get yourself into the group of having assets and productive assets working for you, because there is no certainty anymore. We've got a pandemic at the moment. Lockdowns can occur whenever they like, and you have no choice. So take accountability the same way that we want to, research and watch these videos. I promise you, it is going to pay you dividends the rest of your life. Passive income, cash flow, it's all great. But what I do personally is I like to, use that velocity of money concept. The cash that I get, the positive cash flow, either goes into a fund where I'm now building my deposit for my next property, or I'm using that to now build my positions in crypto, collectibles, NFTs. That's how I do it. And using that money, staying on top of it, then taking that money back, it's multiplying every single stage of this entire process. That gets you to move and scale a lot quicker versus what most people do is, hey, I'm gonna pay interest and principal, pay down my loans. After I paid off one property, I'll go and buy my next one. But hey, property prices over the last 20 years went up. I can't do that. Or they go out and make mistakes, like purchasing a property just for capital growth and someone told them it was a great place to buy. If you're interested in knowing sort of 5 mistakes to avoid, definitely leave me a comment down below, just say mistakes, and I'll definitely make that video for you guys. I thank you for watching all the way through. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks guys.